And in Republic Super Exclusive, we start this edition with getting you all the names of the 5 people who were questioned by the Central Bureau of Investigation in the liquor gate. Remember, soon after filing that FIR and also carrying out the searches, there were 5 people who were called at the CBI headquarters. We are now being told this includes Sunny Marwa, Amandeep Dhal, Amit Arora, Samir Mahindru and Arun Ramachandra Pillai. In fact, the 5 names only with Republic TV right now, getting full details of those who have been questioned so far. This comes at a time when the Central Bureau of Investigation is up the ante. In this particular case, 15 people have been named. 9 private individuals were basically under the scanner of the CBI. The 5 names that we have just put out right now for you viewers, because all this while it was not known exactly who was called in for questioning. We can now confirm the 5 leaders who have the 5 people who have been called in for questioning, which includes Sunny Marwa. In fact, it turns out that some of them who have essentially been linked to the liquor licenses, Amandeep Dhal, Amit Arora.
पहले दिल्ली में जब हमारी सरकार बनी बहुत पावर कट लगते थे, कई बार बिजली जाया करती थी। हमने 24 घंटे बिजली कर दी और बिजली मुफ्त कर दी। दिल्ली के लोगों को मुफ्त बिजली मिलती है। पंजाब के लोगों को भी अब 1 सितंबर से पंजाब के लोगों के 0 बिल आएंगे। 0 बिल पे 0 लिखा होता है, बिल आता है उस पे 0 लिखा होता है। आपको 0 बिल चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए? किस किस को चाहिए? ये कहते हैं केजरीवाल पैसे लुटा रहा है, केजरीवाल फ्री की रेवड़ी दे रहा है। रेवड़ी चाहिए नहीं चाहिए? सबको चाहिए। केवल मैं कर सकता हूं, ये नहीं करेंगे। 27 साल में इन्होंने नहीं किया, तो मेरी पहली गारंटी है हमारी सरकार बनेगी। सरकार बनने के 3 महीने के अंदर आपके सबके बिजली के बिल 0 आया करेंगे। मैं देख रहा हूं महिलाओं के ज्यादा चेहरे खुश हैं, क्योंकि घर तो आप ही को चलाना होता है। आदमी तो महीने के अंत में आके पैसे रख देता है आपके हाथ में, फिर आप जानो आपका काम जाने, है ना। तो महिलाएं ज्यादा खुश हैं। तो बिजली के बिल 0 आएंगे। 0 कुछ नहीं होता उसमें, 1 रुपया 2 रुपया भी नहीं आता, कुछ नहीं, 0 बिल आता है। तो
Well, in fact, Amit Arora, who was basically called in for questioning by the Central Bureau of Investigation, is largely being described as the crucial person, or rather the key link. And in fact, it is suspected that he perhaps has played an instrumental role in framing that excise policy. Republic, in fact, went on the ground to know the business operations of Amit Arora and his directors. How many companies that Arora has been operating? How are they essentially doing in terms of finances? How many employees are there in these companies? With Amit Arora being the main one of the accused, we essentially wanted to know what are these companies and whether at all they are operating from that very premise that they've been talking about. In fact, our reporters on the ground went to one such location in which at least 5 companies have been registered in the name of Amit Arora. Take a look at what we found on the ground.
A day after the CBI registered a case against 15 accused and raided the residence of Delhi Deputy CM Manish Sisodia in connection with the liquor scam, the probe has exposed a deep nexus between bureaucrats, liquor barons and politicians, with a crucial link man at the center of it. Amit Arora, who is the director of Buddy Retail Private Limited based in Gurgaon. Republic went on to the ground to know his business operations.
I'm right now reporting from Aralia's over here, where at 611A, a person named as Amit Arora, a person who is the main accused in this Delhi excise liquor scam, has reportedly registered his flats. But what we have been told over here is that the flat is lying vacant for now over so many months. What exactly needs to be known over here is that a person who has registered over 3 to 4 companies at this address has this address as vacant. This really needs to be investigated by authorities. at a time when this person is the main accused, at a time when this person named as Amit Arora has been identified as one of the main accused who has been involved or who has been accused of framing up this excise liquor scam, the fact that most of his companies at present are not registered at its present location does cast an aspersion, and this again results in investigating agencies to investigate this matter. Surprisingly, when we came over here on the ground, we found that his officers were not really there at the spot. So as I said again, it now becomes very important for the investigating agencies to investigate the entire matter.
While the CBI looks into the paper of his companies, it needs to be seen what more explosive details emerge from the probe.
Well, in fact, who exactly is Amit Arora and why is it so very crucial as far as this investigation goes? Because remember, the company that he is basically linked to, Body Retail. In fact, we're now given to understand that the Central Bureau of Investigation is looking into the company papers. Whether at all there are certain bookings, hotel bookings, flight bookings, because this becomes crucial because they suspect that there could be some of the Aam Aadmi Party politicians who could have benefited from the largesse that was provided by this particular company. Point number one, as far as Amit Arora is concerned, they're examining the papers of Amit Arora's companies. Point number two, the CBI is looking at expenditure incurred by Amit Arora's companies in hotel and flight bookings. The third, what we are being told is that the CBI is essentially examining whether politicians benefited from the largesse provided by Arora's companies. CBI also suspects that Arora was instrumental in drafting the liquor policy. Body Retail Private Limited operated 2 liquor zones in Delhi Airport Zone and Zone 30. What is not very clear at all at this point in time, is it the same very company that had secured the rights without getting the NOC from the airport authorities, and there has been a 30 crore waiver for the same. Arora allegedly was in touch with 2 IS officers who were instrumental in drafting the policy. It is also suspected that Arora introduced representatives of Brindco Sales and Indo Spirits to Aam Aadmi Party politicians. That's the latest we are getting in right now. In fact, I'll also bring in my colleagues Piyush Ori as well as Piyush Mishra, who've been tracking the story very closely. In fact, let me quickly come to you first, Piyush Mishra, and then I'll come to Piyush Ori, who's been there on the ground tracking down those very properties or rather companies that have been registered in the name of Amit Arora. Piyush Mishra, if I can come to you first, with regards to the investigation that's been carried out. 5 people who have already been questioned. Amit Arora apparently happens to be one of them who've already been questioned by the Central Bureau of Investigation. Why is he considered to be that crucial link, the link between Netas, Babus as well as these liquor companies?
Well, Shaman, if we talk about this man, Amit Arora, he is now being seen as the important link not only between the politicians and bureaucrats, but also the lobby which wanted to seek licenses for operating liquor business here in national capital. Amit Arora is the one who has this Badi sales company in his name, and his company also has liquor businesses in 2 important zones, one there at Airport Zone and also Zone 30. Why we are talking about this? Because Zones has got 27 liquor shops, which means in total he has had his business interests in more than 50 liquor shops across the country. What we are also given to understand is that CBI summoned this man day before yesterday. Questioning took place where 5 people who were named as the accused were from Delhi, and Amit Arora's name is also there, and he was summoned by Central Bureau of Investigation. Questioning took place and then he was allowed to go. Amit Arora is the person about which CBI is trying to understand if he incurred the expenses of politicians, if he was the one who also introduced 2 other companies like Brindco Sales and Indo Spirits to Aam Aadmi Party politicians, because the crucial link of bureaucrats, politicians as well as the licensees is now being investigated by Central Bureau of Investigation, and Amit Arora is being seen as the very important person who has got alleged links with each and every person. He is now being seen as a connecting chain between all three parties. So that is why he is going to be the crucial one, and he was also summoned by CBI and investigations took place. We'll have to wait and watch how it is going to further take place. Though CBI has, according to our information, transferred papers to Enforcement Directorate also, and most likely we can expect ED also to jump into this, and then there would be a double trouble for Aam Aadmi Party leaders. But there are some certain questions which not only the government has to answer, the representatives of government has to answer, but also the top leaders of Aam Aadmi Party about the tweaking of policy which took place, and also why the policy was at first place withdrawn if the government felt that it was such a nice policy. Now Amit Arora is coming out as the crucial link. We have our colleague Piyush Ori also went there to the ground like you are mentioning, and he also tried to do a thorough investigation. In fact, we have also got not only the name of Amit Arora, but there are 5 people, those are there who were summoned, which also includes Sandeep Marwa. If we talk about this specific person, Sandeep Marwa is also the one who has got a company in Okhla area of Delhi, and we were very close to that location where Marwa, company with the name of Marwa Spirits is there in Okhla, and Sandeep Marwa was also summoned by CBI. So important details, Shravan, day by day are now coming out, and Amit Arora being seen as a crucial link between all the important parties, those are there in the talk of investigation.
Well, in fact, Piyush, I'll request you to stay on. Our colleague Piyush Ori was there on the ground. In fact, he's also tracked down some of these companies. There are about 5 companies, as I understand, Piyush Ori, that have been registered at one particular address. We've spoken to the supervisor there to find out whether at all such a company actually exists, whether they've been operating from that place. Prima facie, it appears that these companies that have been registered directly with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, registered with one single address, does not exist there, simply if you go by the claims that have been made by the supervisor. In fact, let's play out that report that has been filed by Piyush Ori, who's spoken to the supervisor, and then Piyush Ori, I'll come back to you where you could perhaps explain which are the companies that have been registered, what exactly does the operations essentially look like, and whether at all there has been any word from Amit Arora. Let's play that out.
मेरे को सर 611 ए जाना था, वहाँ पे जा सकते हैं? वहाँ पे मैग्नोलिया सर्विसेज प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है।
611 ए?
हाँ।
611 ए तो खाली है?
खाली है ना?
वहाँ काम चल रहा है।
और वहाँ पे तो मतलब 4-5 कंपनियाँ रजिस्टर्ड है। एक तो मैग्नोलिया सर्विस प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है, मैग्नोलिया एनर्जी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है, अमित अरोरा के नाम पे है ना?
आगे गेट नंबर 1 पे जाइए वहाँ।
हाँ, लेकिन आप बोल रहे खाली है ना?
खाली नहीं मतलब। अब क्या है, वो गेट 1 से एंट्री होती ना, ये आउट गेट।
पर आपने बोला पहले खाली है ना? खाली है, अभी तक तो खाली है। भैया ये 611 ए जो यहाँ पर है उसका क्या स्टेटस है, मुझे बताइएगा ज़रा।
काम चल रहे हैं वहाँ पे, वहाँ कोई रह नहीं रहा है अभी।
वहाँ पे कोई नहीं रह रहा, क्योंकि हमारे अनुसार जो मतलब वहाँ पे ना 4-5 कंपनी रजिस्टर्ड है, और मतलब हमें जो बताया गया है वो मतलब वहाँ पे खाली है।
नहीं, कोई कंपनी नहीं रह रहा है अभी
वहाँ पे, कोई कंपनी नहीं रह रहा ना?
कोई कंपनी नहीं।
अच्छा, क्योंकि मतलब हमें जो अगर आप देखेंगे तो अमित अरोरा नहीं है, उनके नाम पे ये कंपनी रजिस्टर्ड है, और मतलब वो वहाँ पे 4-5 कंपनियाँ वहाँ पे थी, तो ऐसा कोई कंपनी कभी वहाँ पे काम नहीं कर रहा?
नहीं नहीं नहीं।
चलिए ठीक है।
Well, in fact, let me also bring in my colleague Piyush Ori, who's joining us on this broadcast. Piyush, you were there on the ground trying to join the dots. It appears that there are about 5 such firms linked to one man who goes by the name of Amit Arora, turns out to become a crucial link in this entire liquor scam. Just take us through the details that you have. Which are the 5 companies? How exactly did you find out about these companies? Full details of how did we actually go about this entire investigation of one man called Amit Arora.
Shravan, and yes, there's no doubt that Amit Arora, who has actually been named very prominently in the CBI FIR, is one of the main accused in this case, and it became very important for us to also understand about him, understand about his operations, most of which are located over here in Gurugram. So the first and the foremost, priority was to understand about his companies. Now, when you are operating in such a large margin, such a large area about the liquor shop, so it was very important for us to understand about his companies, about the finances of the companies, and why, he regained so much of influence over the bureaucrats. As has been mentioned in the CBI FIR, it has been mentioned very categorically that, this person named as Amit Arora has a lot of influence on the bureaucrats, which really resulted in drafting of the liquor policies. So we went to several of his companies that have been registered over here in Gurugram, and one of the addresses that was mentioned to us by our sources was over here at Aralias. Now, DLF Aralias. Now, this is one of the most poshest areas of the city, and to come over here is one of the most difficult tasks. However, we were able to come over here, and when we came over here, we found out that there were 5 companies. There were 5 companies that was registered under Amit Arora, and it's been mentioned very categorically that these companies which deals under maintenance services, realty services, entertainment services, and event management services were registered over here at Aralias. I would also like to mention the name of the. I would also like to mention the address. It is 611A Aralias. But when we came over here, we were told very categorically that there is no companies which is functioning over here, and the flats over here are vacant. So now it becomes very important for the investigating agencies to examine that why. When you are mentioning that there are some companies which are functioning in its registered address, why it is not there at its present address. So all these operations becomes quite dubious and mysterious, and
We'll try. Well, thank you very much, Piyush. In fact, we'll also bring you back. There seems to be some problem with that audio line. In fact, we're now getting in some more breaking news. More details essentially emerging as to how exactly did the excise policy came under the scanner. Was it the Central Bureau of Investigation, the only agency that was really looking into it? My colleague Piyush Mishra has now accessed more details. In fact, we'll just put out more the details of that communication that went in from the Delhi Police's Economic Offences Wing. The Economic Offences Wing had sent out a notice to the Excise Policy Department demanding several specifics that were needed in the investigation in this case. In fact, I'll bring in Piyush, but I just want our producers to cut to this document that has been accessed. And just let me ask my camera person to just quickly focus on these 6 points. This is the note that was basically sent across by the Delhi Police's Economic Offences Wing to the Excise Policy Department, in which they're categorically asking for details, because this was back in July or August itself, and we're given to understand that they were asking on which date of the formulation of the excise policy, details of the floating of the tenders for grant of liquor license under that date of the grant of liquor license under the New Delhi excise policy, providing application forms of all successful applicants, 32 zones, along with other relevant documents submitted for the grant of liquor license under the New Delhi excise policy, details of all the successful applicants and their company details, what procedure was followed to check monopolies and cartels of successful applicants granted liquor license under the New Delhi policy, and whether at all a SOP was basically prepared to check the monopolies and cartels of successful applicants, and they wanted a full response. Now, let me quickly bring in my colleague Piyush Mishra, who's joining us. Piyush, from this particular document, what becomes abundantly clear is that there was a suspicion. The suspicion that the Delhi Police Economic Offences Wing had in terms of monopolies as well as cartelization, because what has essentially happened is the fact that whether at all these larger companies, say for instance, some of these companies had a turnover of over 150 crore rupees. There appears to be some sort of a clause that was brought in to this excise policy, making it impossible for smaller players to participate in the bidding process.
Well, absolutely, Shravan. If you talk about this entire liquor policy, it was in controversy since beginning. Multiple complainants had come out and they started raising objections over the way the policy, Delhi excise policy, was being tweaked, and that was also being done without getting approval from competent authorities. And that is why the complainants had come forward and they forwarded their request to the then Delhi Police Commissioner Rakesh Asthana. Rakesh Asthana, after receiving these complaints, had written to the Economic Offences wing, following which in August what we are given to understand is that the EOW wing of Delhi Police had sent out a letter to the Excise Commissioner of Delhi, and few questions were asked, and we have also accessed, like you are also showing that particular document in which the questions have been mentioned, and I am also going to read out a few important points from that document where the questions were asked by the Delhi Police to the Assistant Commissioner of Excise of Government of Delhi. It was asked as to why and how the formulation of this excise policy took place. What is the date of floating of tenders from grant of liquor licensee under New Delhi Excise Policy 2021 to 22. There are 9 points and important points have been mentioned here. I would go through 3 important points, 7, 8 and 9, and in these points the Delhi Police had asked whether any SOP was prepared to check monopolies and cartels of successful applicants granted liquor license under New Delhi Excise Policy. In reply dated 21 June 2022 supplied by Excise Department to EOW, it has been stated that SOP to rule out monopolies and cartels by successful companies was as per the relevant clause of these documents, and who was responsible to implement this said SOP. So there are some 9 points those were raised in that particular letter by Delhi Police to the Assistant Commissioner of Excise. Before I toss it back to you, let me also point out one important point, that the people who were already there in the business of liquor, the smaller partners were facing a lot of problem because the licenses were, according to the new policies, were allotted to a bigger person, to a richer person who could handle 27 shops, which means one zone had 27 shops, and if you have to get license, then you will have to pay for all the 27 shops, which means you will have to pay a larger amount. So that was the problem which was being faced by smaller partners, and that is why a lot of problem came out, and many people had also withdrawn from the liquor business here in National Capital. So that is why since beginning we have seen how there was a controversy in this entire policy, and which led to Delhi Police to step in, and then EOW wrote a letter to the Excise Department seeking few answers. We'll have to wait and watch how investigation further proceeds. Shavan.
Well, thank you very much, Piyush Mishra as well as Piyush Ori. Just one bit of a clarification, because this particular note that we have accessed, remember, it was before the Central Bureau of Investigation stepped in. The Delhi Police's Economic Offences Wing had sought for more details at the beginning, when the Chief Secretary had basically filed that report. Moving on to the other big story that we have been tracking very closely, it's the big arrest that has been made by the Russian Federal Security Service, which is detailed suicide bomber, a member of ISIS, who was plotting a terrorist attack against a member of India's leadership elite. In fact, I'm quoting, Russia's FSB has identified and detained a member of the Islamic State international terrorist organization banned in Russia, a native of a country in the Central Asian region, who planned to commit a terrorist attack by blowing himself up against one of the representatives of the ruling circles of India. Let me bring in my colleague, our Senior Executive Editor, Abhishek Kapoor, who is joining us on this broadcast. Abhishek, any details that you're picking up from the security agencies? Because there would be a protocol which is essentially to be followed. Perhaps the National Investigation Agency will also be informed in a short while from now.
Well, yes, so I can confirm to you and to viewers, Shavan, that our agencies have been informed by the Russian FSB. We don't know whether they have been informed there at our mission in Russia. Remember, every mission has the agency component, also the military attaché, the agencies. So whether it has happened there, or similarly in the Russian embassy here, there is an agency's component present in Delhi as well. So whether those people have communicated to the agencies here directly, but that communication has happened. For a more detailed response, we have to wait for MEA to really come out with some kind of statement. But pending that, what can be confirmed is that agencies have communicated, the identity has been established. He has told the Russian agents some details, given some details about what he was supposed to do on landing in India, and based on those leads, our agencies have gotten onto the job of finding out which sleeper cell was to be activated, what are the connections, whether they go back to our neighbor to the west, that is Pakistan, or is it a larger conspiracy which involves Islamic State, Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Remember, after the Nupur Sharma comments, Ayman al-Zawahiri, who was still alive at that time, had come out and made a statement that this should not go unpunished. So whether this is some kind of module working in tandem with the Pakistani deep state, which perhaps provided a sleeper cell in India to facilitate the movement of this man who has been caught by the successor of KGB, the FSB. So all those things are there, but that can be confirmed that the agencies are communicating with each other now. A lot of to and fro of information is happening, and very soon we would be able to bring to our viewers the exact details of this larger diabolical plan of targeting VIPs in the ruling establishment, possibly the BJP and the RSS in Delhi by Islamic State and Al-Qaeda.
Well, thank you very much, Abhishek, for getting us the latest details. On the other side, news and updates continue as we track the stories very closely. The latest with the Russian FSB making the arrest and also the liquor scam.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
Farmers have called for an agitation in Delhi as their demands for a minimum support price, along with the resignation of the Union Minister Ajay Mishra, amongst others, have led to several farmers gathering at the capital in order to protest at Jantar Mantar. Police personnel have been deployed across the border ahead of gathering. A first-year MBBS student died under suspicious circumstances in Uttar Pradesh's University of Medical Sciences in Safai. The deceased student's parents believe that fellow students and wardens were complicit in his death. An IED weighing approximately 10 to 12 kgs has been recovered from the area of Behgund in Tral. The police and the army were called in to detonate the explosive at the site, with a major incident being averted in Jammu and Kashmir. The former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shankar Singh Waghela, has announced his plans to form a no political party in Gujarat called the Prajashakti Democratic Party. The leader said that people were fed up with the BJP, adding that the BJP is taking people of Gujarat for granted. A 46-year-old allegedly with a fake Indian citizenship in 2016 was arrested from Delhi by the Rajasthan police for allegedly spying for Pakistan. The person reportedly got Indian citizenship in 2016 and was working as a taxi driver in Delhi.
As political altercations grow around the posters of V.D. Savarkar in Karnataka, posters of V.D. Savarkar were seen pasted at an office of the Congress in Vijaypura. At least 8 to 10 photographs of the freedom fighter had been pasted by an unidentified person at the office. While the police is on a lookout for the person responsible for the act, personnel of the police were stationed at the Congress office. Altercations around the posters have grown on multiple occasions in the recent days. While one on the first incidents was reported from Shivamoga, altercations between the BJP and Congress were later reported at Tumakuru and Dharwad, with Congress leader Siddharamaya's convoy being attacked in one of the occasions. The Savarkar posters were removed by the police at the Vijaypura Congress office. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
He has called for a crucial meeting in Jammu today. According to sources, the meeting is being called to prepare a political strategy to counter the Gupkar alliance's allegations where the Gupkar Alliance has said that 25 new non-local voters are being added. Former Deputy Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and the BJP leader Kavindra Gupta has attacked the opposition parties and accused them of spreading misinformation about new voting rules. Backing the Election Commission's clarification, he said that the opposition is trying to mislead people. An office of the Congress was vandalized in Vijaypur in Karnataka after posters of V.D. Savarkar were pasted at the site by an unidentified person. The police have booked a case. Stones were hurled at Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's cavalcade in Patna yesterday, following which 13 people have been arrested. According to locals, the incident happened at around 5 in the evening at the Sodimode Gauri Chuk police station area, where a road blockade was underway over the death of a local man. Farmers have called for an agitation in Delhi as their demands for a minimum support price, along with the resignation of the Union Minister Ajay Mishra, amongst others, have led to several farmers gathering at the capital in order to protest.
Big claim by Aam Aadmi Party. Big claimer by Aam Aadmi Party says BJP invited Delhi Deputy Chief Minister to the party. Top leaders in Aam Aadmi Party claim proof of BJP invitation to Sisodia. Says Sisodia has the audio tape. BJP hits back at the Aam Aadmi Party, says if you have proof, why not go public? All right, dramatic visuals emerged from Patna earlier today when teachers staged protest holding the tricolor seeking jobs and were instead brutally thrashed. Water cannons were also used on the protesters. The Bihar government was forced in order to order a probe into the matter after Republic newsbreak. We are now getting visuals of the boy named Anishur Rahman in Darbhanga who was hit by the ADM. In fact, Prakash Singh joins us live, and these pictures really show the kind of brutality that the cops really indulged in. Prakash, was this brutally really called for? Did the police lose its cool, or were they under some kind of instruction by the government to clamp down on these protests, embarrassed that the government might have felt? Prakash.
Well, as far as the incident is concerned, the ADM concerned, KK Singh, definitely lost his cool, and he should not have done what he did, because the way he was brutally assaulting and mercilessly beating up that boy, Anishur Rahman, and who is injured, very badly injured. He's being his parents called up today afternoon after the incident, and I spoke to his friend a moment back, and they say that he's being rushed to Darbhanga, in his hometown, where he will be admitted into the hospital. I believe there's a hairline fracture in his jaw. He's unable to speak at the moment. I tried speaking to him. So this is the nature of the incident. Meanwhile, I feel that the DM has given a bite, saying that the teachers should have protested on the site of the dharna, whereas the Dagbangla Choraha is a prohibited area. There is no doubt about that. But 3 years back, these students had cleared the teachers' eligibility test, but till date they have not got the recruitment letter in hand. Why, in the first place, the government of Bihar brought out the advertisement for recruitment if they were not able to recruit any of these boys, even after 3 years of passing the test? That is the question. Now that Tejasvi Yadav says that Hamari Sarkar Padhai, Dawai, Kamai ki hogi, and he had promised that in the first cabinet itself he